Journalists, on the other hand, shouldn't have what you called a glass jaw when it comes to some of these investigations.
The First Amendment is a critically important part of the Constitution. It is not unconditional.
Most people watching her right now think they are seeing strength. But what if the calm you see is actually something learned long before this moment ever happened? Because behind every perfectly controlled word, behind every steady sentence delivered to the camera, there is a deeper story almost nobody notices. It's a story that explains why she refuses to break even when the world expects her to. Tonight is not just about what is happening on the surface. It is about understanding the invisible history shaping every decision. Every pause and every expression you are seeing right now at 86. Tom Brokaw finally tells the truth about Savannah Guthrie. And what he revealed changes the way this entire situation is understood. It is Monday night, February 9th, 2026. The 5 p.m. ransom. Deadline in Tucson came and went hours ago. No wallet address arrived. No proof of life photo appeared. No new message has been made public. The silence surrounding the case feels heavier than any update could have been. And in the middle of that silence, something unexpected happened. Something almost no one saw coming. Tom Brokaw. The voice that defined network news for decades. The man who anchored NBC Nightly news through wars, elections, national tragedies, and cultural turning points broke a long personal silence. He did not speak on television. He did not release a statement. He did not write an article or give an interview. Instead, he spoke quietly to a small group of former colleagues and longtime friends gathered inside his New York home. 8 people total. No press, no cameras. No recordings allowed, just conversation, memory, and a story he had carried for years. One of those 8 people reached out later that evening and described what was said in careful detail. What follows is not speculation, not rumor, and not anonymous commentary dressed up as fact. It is a reconstruction of what Tom shared that afternoon, a perspective focused not on headlines, but on the psychology behind them. He began simply, he said he had known Savannah since her early days at NBC. When she first arrived ambitious, polished, and relentlessly prepared. But beyond professionalism, he noticed something else immediately, something familiar. Something he had seen before in people shaped by a particular kind of upbringing. He said she carried her mother with her everywhere, not in a sentimental way, but in a way that influenced how she thought, spoke, and reacted under pressure. He described it as a second internal voice, one that never fully left the room. According to him, Savannah's composure was not accidental. It was learned behavior developed over decades. Her mother, Nancy, raised 3 children after losing her husband, and she did so with unwavering discipline. Strength was not optional. Emotional control was not encouraged. It was expected. Tom explained that this philosophy shaped Savannah early. Approval came through performance. Stability came through control. Emotion was private, never public. And over time, that lesson became instinct. He recalled a moment from years earlier when Savannah was offered the co-anchor role on the Today Show. One of the most significant promotions in broadcast journalism. Instead of celebrating publicly or calling industry contacts first, she called her mother. The response she later shared stayed with him. Her mother reminded her to stay grounded, to focus on the work, and never let success change how seriously she approached responsibility. He said Savannah told that story with pride, not resentment. To her, discipline meant love, guidance meant protection, and expectations meant belief. If you find yourself drawn to stories that look beyond headlines and explore the human behavior underneath them, you're in the right place. Subscribe now, because every story here is built to help you see people and moments. In a way most coverage never slows down enough to explain. Tom then asked those present to observe how Savannah has been speaking publicly during this crisis. The structure of her statements, the measured pacing, careful order of gratitude, information, and appeal, none of it appeared spontaneous to him. He believed it reflected years of conditioning. Control first, emotion second. Panic never visible. He suggested that what viewers interpret as composure, may actually be adherence to deeply learned rules about strength. Never lose control. Never show desperation. Maintain dignity regardless of circumstance. Someone in the room asked whether her mother would approve. If Savannah allowed herself to visibly break down on camera, Tom answered without hesitation. He believed her mother would struggle to accept that display not because of lack of love, but because strength had always been the family's survival strategy. He reflected on how Nancy endured hardship privately, solving problems rather than expressing fear publicly. That example became the emotional blueprint Savannah followed throughout adulthood. Tom added that in all the years he worked alongside her, he had rarely seen her cry. On the few occasions emotion surfaced, she quickly regained composure and redirected focus to work. He described this not simply as resilience, but as conditioning, a learned ability to remain functional regardless of emotional weight. He then referenced one of Savannah's recent public appeals. The words were clear and direct, delivered with calm determination. To him, the delivery resembled negotiation rather than desperation, precise, controlled, purposeful. He suggested that, even during crisis, she operates as if fulfilling a responsibility assigned long ago, maintaining order when chaos threatens to take over. In his view, she is not only responding to events unfolding now, but also to expectations formed over a lifetime. When asked whether that level of control could continue indefinitely, he admitted uncertainty. He said fatigue was visible beneath the composure. The effort required to maintain strength under such circumstances is immense. No one can sustain it forever. He shared one final memory. Years earlier, during a difficult personal period, Savannah quietly mentioned seeking reassurance from her mother. The advice she received was simple: handle it. And she did. She returned to work, fulfilled her responsibilities, and never allowed personal struggle to interfere with professionalism. Tom described that moment as revealing. It showed how deeply responsibility and emotional restraint were connected in her identity. He concluded by saying, "Savannah is not only navigating a public crisis, but also confronting lifelong expectations about strength, control, and worthiness." In his words, she represents the outcome of a philosophy where love is demonstrated through endurance rather than vulnerability. He asked those present not to rush his comments to public conversation immediately. He believed the full story was not about crime or investigation, but about understanding the human experience behind public composure. He ended quietly, expressing hope that when this ordeal ends, resolution might include something simple yet powerful: reassurance that strength does not always require perfection. The gathering ended without ceremony. No announcements followed. Just reflections shared among a small group who understood the weight of what had been said. What remains now is a different way of seeing the situation unfolding, not only as a news event, but as the story of a daughter balancing public responsibility, private fear, and a lifetime of expectations all at once. As the investigation continues and time moves forward, viewers may begin to notice details differently: the pauses between words, the steadiness of tone, the determination to remain composed even when uncertainty grows heavier. Because sometimes the most powerful stories are not about what happens publicly, but about the invisible forces shaping how people endure what the world cannot fully see. And if this story made you look deeper than the headlines, stay connected here. Every video is created to reveal the psychology, emotion, and human truth behind moments everyone else watches only at the surface. Tonight, somewhere between hope and uncertainty, the search continues. The clock keeps moving, and behind every carefully spoken sentence remains a person carrying years of lessons about strength, love, and resilience, lessons now being tested in ways no one ever expects. Whatever happens next, the story is no longer only about events. It is about understanding the human heart under pressure, and recognizing that sometimes the strongest people are not those who never feel fear, but those who have learned, for better or worse, how to carry it silently,